I am never gonna buy this many books at once ever again, mostly because that thumbnail nearly killed me. Hey guys, how's it going? Today's video is going to be a giant book haul. Most of these I got for Christmas or shortly after Christmas with gift cards that I got for Christmas. I think I have like 23 or 24 books, I think, but let's get right into it because this is going to be a lot. These are in no particular order, really just whatever was easiest to stack. The first book I have here is Tarnished Are the Stars by Rosie Thor. This is a queer sci-fi story. From what I understand, the main character has like a mechanical heart or something, and she's like helping sick and injured people with black market medical technology. And then there's another character who is the son of the commissioner who is after her, and then there's an assassin, and I don't even know what's happening, but I'm very excited for it. Also, I know that there is a female-female romance in this, and that the male main character is asexual and aromantic. But I've just seen the author talking about the story so much, and every time I saw her talking about it, I just got more and more excited. So I finally picked it up, and I am really excited. The next book I have here is The One by John Mars. This is a science fiction-y story about an app that can predict your one true soulmate. And it follows a bunch of different characters that get unexpected results. There's also a couple of different mysteries going on that I think are going to be very interesting to read. I'm usually not one for soulmate tropes, mostly just because I'm not into romance, but this is a thriller and I'm definitely really intrigued by the concept. I know that similar types of concepts have been done before, but I've heard a lot of good things about this one in particular, so I'm really excited to jump into it and see what the heck's going on. The next book I have here is The Chain by Adrian Mckinty. This is a thriller, I think it's a mystery, maybe horror, something uncomfortable for sure. Basically, a parent will get a phone call saying that their child has been kidnapped, and in order to get their child back, they have to kidnap another child, and then it's essentially a chain of just constant kidnapping so that you can get your child back, but then you have to get someone else and they have to get their child back and get someone else. And I'm just very curious to see all of that because I'm really interested in not only the mystery of who started this, why are they kidnapping children, what in the world is happening, what's the end goal here, like is the person just out for chaos, is there a specific target, like what the heck is happening, and also how do the parents react to this, because obviously kidnapping is bad, you don't want to kidnap someone else's child, but to save your own child, kind of like what lengths will parents go to? And I'm very interested to see just the morality issues and just the conflict. I really enjoy stories that deal with that type of subject matter, so I'm really looking forward to it. The next book I picked out was Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. I have heard nothing but great things about this book, and a lot of people that have really similar reading taste to mine have really enjoyed this, so I am so excited. If you don't know, this is a queer, like paranormal type story. Our main character is trans and his family doesn't seem to accept his identity, and he has to go through this like magic ritual, and I think there's a specific one for boys and for girls, from what I'm understanding. He decides to go through the Pruho ceremony to essentially prove himself to his family, and something goes wrong and he tries to resurrect the spirit of his dead cousin and ends up summoning a completely different spirit who now won't leave, and it just sounds very interesting. Also his own voices, because the author is also trans, queer, and Latinx, so that's always good. I really like more own voices stories. Like I said, I have heard nothing but positive things for this. This was on so many people's favorite books of the year list last year, and I am just beyond excited to get to it, and I'm glad that I finally got myself a copy. Next, I got 2 manga, and that is Orange, the Complete Collection 1 and 2. I watched the Orange anime maybe 3 years ago and bawled so much. This is about a group of friends who there's a kid that none of them are really close to, and then they get a letter from themselves 10 years in the future saying that this classmate of theirs is going to die, and basically, you know, this is what you have to do to stop it, to save him. And it's heartbreaking. It was one of those animes that just shattered my heart in so many places. There was one moment that was like really great and everything looked amazing, and then I realized we still have a whole episode left, and you know that things are just gonna switch so many times between now and then, like the highest highs, the lowest lows. So yeah, I absolutely adored the anime, and now that I have the manga, I'm going to read it when I really want to cry. Next is a book that I actually already read, but that is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. If you want to hear my in-depth thoughts, I'll leave my wrap-up linked above and below. This is the story of our main character Vanessa, and it's told in dual timelines. In one timeline, it is when she is a teenager and she has a relationship with her much older teacher, and she knows that there's some red flags, but she believes it's a perfectly consensual relationship. She doesn't see anything wrong with it. And now fast forward to present day, where this teacher has now been accused of sexually assaulting, sexually harassing these other young girls, and she kind of has to deal with, you know, whether or not that was abusive and how everything she kind of thought of and all the memories that she tried to suppress and all of the trauma, how it really happened and where the line really was. It is a very good book, very dark, trigger warnings for sexual assault, sexual harassment, statutory rape, and a lot of victim blaming. So it's a heavy book, but I very much enjoyed it. The next book I picked up was Challenger Deep by Neil Schusterman. I've read a couple other books by Neil Schusterman and I really enjoy his writing. This is a story that seems like it's also in dual perspectives. The story is about a teenage boy who has schizophrenia, and from what I understand and from what it sounds like on the synopsis, you see both what's actually happening in reality and how he's perceiving things. It seems like on one hand you have him just being in school and his regular everyday life, and then he's also a captain of a ship and an artist, and I don't know, I think it's going to be very interesting. I have heard a lot of really good things about this. I've heard that the rep is done really well, which is always nice. I'm very intrigued by the concept. I'm very interested to see how it's written, like how the, I don't want to say dual perspectives because they're both him, but the two storylines, I guess, are going on and what the parallels are, if there are any, and I'm just very intrigued about all of this. And I was looking at it at my library for the longest time, and it was one of the books that just had a tremendous waiting list, and I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna buy it myself, so I did. The next book I picked up is one that has been on my radar for a really long time, and then I actually saw it at a really great price secondhand and knew I had to have it, and that is Truth and Beauty by Anne Pratchett. If you saw my February TBR, I am rereading Autobiography of a Face by Lucy Greeley. She is a poet who, when she was 9 years old, had cancer, and she had most of her jaw removed, and years of chemo, radiation, and a lot of severe health problems, obviously. And she basically spends her entire life having reconstructive surgeries to try to have a quote-unquote normal-looking face. She's always talking about how, the first couple surgeries were to save her life, and for the rest of her life, all of her surgeries was so that she could fit in the world. And most of the surgeries fail, and she actually, in 2002, I believe, I know she was only 39 years old, she died of a heroin overdose because she had severe addiction to painkillers, because she has been almost constantly on prescription painkillers since she was like 9 years old because of the constant surgeries and reconstructive surgeries, and her addiction escalated to heroin and she died of an accidental overdose. And I know this isn't exactly about this book, but this is the book written by her best friend about their friendship and the way that their lives intertwined and how it felt to lose her. I have been really fascinated with Lucy Greeley for quite a while now, and I'm really interested to have this other perspective and just to kind of get a more well-rounded look and a somewhat outsider's look at her life. And I don't know, I'm really excited for it, and Lucy Greeley kind of makes me emotional, so I'm expected to get really emotional for this book too. And that somehow segues perfectly into the next book. Speaking of heroin, the next book is Heroine by Mindy Mcginnis. This is the story of a teenage girl who is in an accident and she's prescribed painkillers and she starts relying on them. She gets addicted to them, things escalate, and now she is battling a heroin addiction. And I don't know much more than that, but that was enough to sell me on this book. I feel like in a lot of novels, a lot of media, addiction is something that is reserved for villains. If somebody has a sort of substance abuse problem, they are a bad guy, they are a bad person, they, are all of these negative things, and that's not the case. Addiction is a very serious issue, and pretending that it only happens to bad people is so damaging to people who are already struggling so much with something. So I think this is a very important book. I've heard some really good things about the rep in this, and I'm really interested to see the conversations it has and how it tackles some of these problems, and I just think that it's going to be very important. Okay, do I have any happy books? Happy books, where are you? Next, I have books 1 and 2 of a series, and that is Stoneheart and Stone Soul by April K. These are the first 2 books in the Gargoyles of Craven series. I'm not reading the synopsis for the second one because I don't want to be spoiled. From what I understand, the first book is about a girl who witnesses some sort of magical attack, and now she's thrown into this like magical world, and there's like witches and some weird bodyguard. I really like the last line of the synopsis here. It says, "But as the magic that touched Shyla that fateful night starts to consume her, the gargoyles and the white witches can only do so much to protect her." So that just sounds really exciting. I also really love April K. I really love her videos, and I'm really excited to give her series a try. The 3rd book came out fairly recently. I haven't got it yet, but I'm really excited to read the first 2, and then hopefully I'll be able to get the 3rd one before much longer. And also, I've heard April talking about this series so much. I've been following along on her writing journey for quite a while, and just every time she talks about this book, I just get so like giddy and excited. So yes, I'm very excited to have the first 2 books in the series and give them a try. The next book I have is also from another author tuber and also a friend of mine, and that is Geraldine's Alley by Becca C Smith. Becca is some sort of superhero. I'm gonna leave her video link down below, but she did everything in this book in 90 days. She wrote it, she edited it, she released it, it was just amazing, and it was so fascinating to watch that video and watch the project unfold and watch the entire process. And obviously, as she was talking about it, I was getting more and more excited because, first of all, like, it's an amazing video, it's an amazing experiment, and I just really, really love Becca. And the more she talked about this book, the more I was like, okay, I need this now. So I paused the video like 3/4 through and I ordered the book, and I'm very excited. From what I understand, this story is about Geraldine, who sees storybook characters and she's just fearful of a lot of different things, and then her grandmother gives her a gun so she can protect herself, and then when she's in an alley, which is like her biggest fear, she shoots somebody that she thinks is going to attack her, and there's like a question of reality, and I don't know, I am just super intrigued with that, and also excited from after seeing Becca talking about it so much, and I've read other stories by Becca and absolutely loved them, so I am very, very intrigued for this story and cannot wait to get to it. Next is another heavy book, and that is Allegedly by Tiffany D Jackson. This is the story of a black teenage girl who, when she was 9 years old, her and her mother were babysitting this white baby, and the baby died. And she has been convicted of the murder, and she never said anything in her interview, and she allegedly did it, and now she spent 6 years in, they call it baby jail. I don't know if that's juvie or it's American. I'm not 100% sure what their like prison system is like. But she is now in a group home, and she gets pregnant at 15, and the state wants to take away her baby, and now she has to rely on her mother, who she doesn't trust, and there's just a ton of other stuff going on. I'm so intrigued by that premise, and this just sounds like it has so many different difficult aspects, and I'm really interested to see how the main character handles it and just kind of see how everything plays out. Next, I have another book by Tiffany D Jackson, and that is Grown. This is the story of Enchanted, who is an aspiring singer, and she gets like discovered by this like R&B artist, and then she starts getting into a kind of relationship with him, I believe, and he's manipulating her, and there's some other abuse going on. I don't know too many details about it because as soon as I heard about this, I was super intrigued, and I tried not to hear too much about it. This has one of my favorite tropes, and that is somebody is dead and somebody else has memory loss. So she wakes up with blood on her hands, and the R&B singer guy is dead, and she has no idea what in the world happened, and obviously she's now the prime suspect in his murder, and I really love that. I'm really curious to see how that plays out, and I've also heard some really great things about how this explores different types of abuse and how easy it is to manipulate people when you're in that kind of position of power, and about just some other dark things in the industry, and I'm very intrigued by all of that, and I've heard so many good things. I'm very, very excited for this one. The next book I have here is The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. This is a sci-fi, hi Comet. This is a sci-fi story about a teenage girl who, her and her parents were on a space mission to start like a colony or something, and then there's some sort of accident and her parents die, and now she is completely alone on this spaceship, and she's been there for like 5 years, and she can email her therapist back home, but there's like nothing else she can do. And it sounds very interesting because I really like isolation type stories, and I really like things set in space, so I'm really intrigued about that. But she also finds out that there is another ship that is going to catch up to her, and she is emailing with the person on that ship, and there's like I think a month-long delay between their emails because of, I don't know, space stuff, and she starts kind of falling for this person, and then the last line of the synopsis says, "And suddenly there are worse things than being alone." And that sounds really ominous. So I'm really curious about this. This has a lot of aspects that I really like, so I think that it's going to be something I enjoy. I don't know how romance-centered it's going to be, and you guys know that I'm not a huge fan of romance, but I'm hoping that all of the other aspects will still make it that it's going to be really enjoyable for me. I know, and you're the loneliest comet in the universe. Yeah, I know. Her so sad. Thank you for those kisses. Next, I got a box set, and that is the entire Red Rising trilogy by Pierce Brown. This is a sci-fi story where a main character is part of the Red Society, and it's like a color class system, and he, along with all the other Reds, are working underground and in terrible conditions so that they can eventually make the surface of Mars habitable for future generations, and it's a terrible life, a really difficult life, but, you know, he gets himself through it because he knows that he's doing this for his children and for his children's children and all of that. And then they find out that humanity has been living on the surface for generations, and they've been lied to this whole time, and they're basically just being used as slaves, and kind of forcing these people to do all this labor and just lying to them about, you know, the reality. And I'm very interested in that concept. Every time I heard somebody talking about it, I just got so interested and so curious about it. Then I saw the box set for a really good deal and decided, let's just bite the bullet and buy all 3 of them. So I really hope that I like it because I own all 3 books now. And now, last but not least, this is a book that I bought just last week, and that is A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Bridget Kemmerer. This is the 3rd book in the Curse of Dark and Lonely series. I'm not going to go into the synopsis of this book because huge spoilers, but the first book is like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and there's a girl from our world that gets kidnapped and transported into this magical world, and I love her. She's a much smarter hero than a lot of other stories, and I love the side characters, and I love the villain, and there was some unexpected twists and turns, and I just really liked it. I also buddy read it with my friend Audrey, and the next 2 books are no longer Beauty and the Beast retelling. It kind of takes, you know, its own story from there. And we were buddy reading the sequel together, and some very exciting things happened at the end, and we decided that we both wanted to read the next book, so we both went and ordered it, and now we're in the midst of buddy reading the 3rd book together, so we will have buddy read the whole series, which has just been so much fun. I'm about halfway through, so by the time my wrap-up comes out, I'll have finished it and you can hear all about my thoughts. And there we have it. Those are all the books that I've bought recently. I feel like I'm set up to have an amazing reading year. There were so many books that I was already excited about, and then I have so many more books that I'm excited about. So that is going to be all for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, please click the like button to let me know, and subscribe to stay up to date with the rest of my videos and see how many of these I read this year and what I think of them, etc. I usually post videos every Wednesday and Sunday. Lately I've been struggling a bit, so I've been missing a lot of uploads, but I'm trying to upload at least once a week. And once I'm like back on the horse, Wednesdays and Sundays, usually reading or writing related. So I hope to see you guys next time, and until then, have a great day. Bye!